then why don't we just talk about Porzingis here, expectations here? Does this
Sure.
impact the way you think about anything? And then we can have a player prop conversation as well around the zinger.
Yeah, I follow Tim Bontemps from ESPN on Twitter too, and I bookmarked a couple of these in the same vein as what you were just reading to, it kind of echoes the same thoughts. So Kristaps Porzingis is asked if he's 100% right now, and after a pause says, "I don't know, we'll see," end quote. He then says the plan as of right now is to play in game one, quote, "Every day gives me a bit more time to get better." Then there's another one. When asked if he was running pain-free, Porzingis has a very long pause. This is Bontemps like coloring outside the lines, and then says yes. Then this is just Bontemps talking.
To be fair, Porzingis probably hasn't run pain-free in like 6 years,
right.
To be fair. He got
He's like trying to think back.
He got them, and he got them BMF.
2015. Yeah, he got them
BMF. He's in pain.
Got the Greg Oden feet. Yeah, when asked if he was running pain-free, Porzingis had a very long pause and then said yes. Been interesting to see Porzingis answer these questions about his injury situation. Whether it was gamesmanship or not, he left the impression there's some uncertainty about it. I don't know if that actually tells us anything. I just think it's interesting. You're kind of exactly where you started on this series. I think we all thought he was going to play. I think we all thought he'd play some minutes and start in game one. That's just confirmed, but it doesn't tell you anything new until he plays, until you can just see it. I think you mentioned the market didn't move off of this. I think a lot of the market was probably that you would see him in this series, like probably early, and we still don't know how much we're going to see him. Like, this is all just, we don't know. It's just weird. He's going to make an appearance. He's going to play some minutes. Maybe it's a lot. Maybe he's exactly the same. Maybe he's not. We have no idea. I think if you like the Celtics, this is kind of what you thought was going to happen anyway, so I don't know if it like really, really makes you want to go bet a lot more money. You knew Porzingis would be a part of the series anyway. It's just worth remembering like some of the all-in-one metrics that track like season-long performances from a lot of the players and are very smart basically say that Porzingis was the most impactful Celtic this year of all 5 of the starters, and they have one of the best starting lineups of all time. And he was sort of the straw that stirs the drink to a certain extent in a lot of ways. One of the best rim protectors of anybody in the NBA, ability to stretch the floor and shoot threes. And you could be like, well, Al Horford can do the three-point shooting part. Porzingis can do it better. And it just, if you add in the rim protection as part of that, his rapport with Tatum and Brown's awesome. Yeah, just like I think it's a really big deal. If he can be what we think is possible, then I do think it's a really big deal. But I don't know if anything that he said today or what we heard actually settles the debate about what this is going to look like. It's just going to be, hey, like, can he get through all of game one? How many minutes does he play? How does he look? And then after that game, maybe we'll have honestly, it's not that we'll have a much better answer of what this is going to look like.
Chandler Parsons, who played on the Dallas Mavericks, said recently that he believes, and he knows, I think he basically made it like he knows, that Luka Doncic and Kristaps Porzingis, obviously Kristaps now on the Celtics, that they don't like each other because things didn't go well when they were teammates on the Dallas Mavericks. Luka Doncic responded when he was asked about this in a press conference to say, "I think I've spoken to Chandler Parsons maybe once or twice in my life. How would he know? He doesn't know me." Do you think Chandler Parsons is telling the truth and Luka and Kristaps do not like each other?
Yes.
I also think Chandler Parsons is telling the truth. It's definite.
There's definitely a part of this where it's like, well, like, why would Chandler Parsons make it up? Because he's on a show that he wants to be popular and get clicks. Like, so he has a reason to make it up.
Porzingis' player props: 15.5 points, 6.5 rebounds, 1.5 assists. Any desire to do anything with Porzingis before we see him play a game on Thursday night?
Yeah, I mean, I think the interesting thing, and I would have to know the answer to this, like I'd have to go back and research it, like go back through games. People that bet props probably know this stuff. How's he usually lined? Because if he's usually lined 15.5, 6.5, this is a pretty low total comparing to most of the NBA games the Celtics played this year too. 14.5, probably more consistent with like the second half of the season when the game was officiated differently. Is Porzingis a 15.5, 6.5 guy usually? Because if he is, I think you have to think about betting the under on both. Because this means full minutes. 15.5, 6.5 implies it's what it was before he got hurt. So if this is what it's been, then I think the only angle is to bet the under with the idea that you may not get the full minutes. You may only get 20, 25 less. Why can't it be 18 minutes right out of the gate? And they just say like, hey, he's just not ready yet. Like he needs to get back into game shape. Like he hasn't played basketball in, I think it's like more than a month now since the game where he got hurt, the way that these series go. It's
April
been a really
29th.
long time. Right. Crazy to think about that. Like he got hurt on April 29th. It's June 4th.
Do you
This is
remember
another
when the
example.
Bucks were
The
like,
playoffs are too long.
Giannis is going to come back? Like, really? Like, Giannis is
Yeah,
going to come back in this series? Like, come on. It's
that's
the
it's a
same
great point.
injury.
Right, it's a great point. And like here's Porzingis on like day 38. It's like, well, still easing back in. It's going to be really
And
really tough.
for
Yeah,
what it's
go ahead.
worth, and Ken, maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's nothing. Porzingis was averaging 12, 5, and 2 in the 3 games against Miami, averaging like
Right.
27 minutes a game prior to. And obviously, it's a different opponent. It doesn't have to go exactly the same way.
I mean, I just think if you were going to bet his props and he's being lined like he's going to play a full workload, you should bet under because there's no guarantee he's playing a full work. I mean, that's all it is. It's betting the under on receiving yards on a receiver if you don't think they're going to get all the snaps. Right? It's been
Oh
running back
man,
timeshares. Yeah, if
can't
you're
wait.
speaking your language here, we'll do NFL later in the
Oh, can't
show.
wait.
Right? I get tweets from, or not tweets, I get messages from people about hockey sometimes where the coaches will change the lines up and they'll maybe move a guy from the fourth line to the first line or third, whatever, however the stuff works. And so then you start, and the power play units will change and be like, oh, cool, well, now I want to bet that guy to score a goal. Or I don't because now he's out of that and I want to bet no goal because he's going to be dropped down a little bit. In every sport, that's the same. There's these same dynamics. It's just about like usage. How much time is the player going to be on the court, field, ice, other playing surface, whatever, it doesn't matter. And if that's going to change or there's question about that, where it may not be a set number and the market is setting it like, no, that's what it is, then I mean, unders are always going to be preferred in that. So I don't know how he's typically been lined. This would strike me as probably close to how he's typically lined. I mean, I doubt it's a lot more. What is that, 20-point
Maybe a
player in prop
little
markets?
less, right? He averaged
Right?
20 per game in the regular season, so maybe it's a little less than what he was
Like
like the
18 and a
regularly
half,
lined.
17 and a half, maybe something like that, and he's
Yeah.
15 and a half. So maybe there's something built into it. But look, I mean, if you think there's some chance, like, keep reading the quotes, let's keep following like anything that comes out about this. It would feel to me like if I had to bet one side of it, I don't know how you wouldn't bet unders just on the idea that there's a chance he plays 20 minutes in the game. There's a chance he plays 15 minutes in the game.
Porzingis literally telling the Athletic he's unsure if he's at 100% yet. We read his props earlier in hour number one for game number one. 15.5 points, 6.5 rebounds, 1.5 assists. What do you think we see from Porzingis in game number one? Any desire to bet him?
The only way I'm willing to bet him is something that's more of a season or a series long bet. And it's him to have 2 threes in every game of the series at 6-1. I think that's interesting because there's too much juice on the 1.5 for game one to bet it specifically. But I think they're probably going to ramp up his minutes a little bit. But the thing is, considering the centers of Dallas, they're probably at least going to start the game, I would assume, play it pretty straight, see how Porzingis is, and if they get burned by him in the first few minutes, so be it. Up to that first time out, like when they would usually bring in Lively for Gafford, if they maintain a similar rotation at about the 7-8 minute mark of the first quarter, and then maybe that's where they would make any sort of adjustment if needed. I'm fascinated to see how Dallas decides to defend him and how quickly they're willing to pivot, because I think it's very possible that they end up not having the center on him for a lot of the series and try and have whoever's in at center. Is that going to be who's going to be on Drew Holiday and then maybe Luka is on Jaylen Brown? Or do they swap that? Or where do they feel like they have an opportunity to hide the center if they feel like they need to, just because of how far out on the court Porzingis can get? So I think probably in that, a lot of people are saying like 25, 27, 28-minute range for game one probably seems about right if the Celtics are being careful. But I, also heard Tim Bontemp saying he saw their last practice, and obviously it wasn't game type situation, but he looked capable of playing a minimum of 25 minutes and could play into the 30s, based on how Porzingis was moving and what he was able to do.